Oh, have I got some bullshit for you today? This video is one I've been wanting to make for a long time. I see this in my office. I hear it in my office all the time, probably every day. These are three myths that have persisted throughout the ages in the fitness and bodybuilding industry. Three myths that exist. These are three facts that are complete and utter bullshit. So this is near and dear to my heart because I hear them all the time. I know they exist. They're out there. They're not going anywhere. They've been around for decades. I'm here to squash three of them. Number one, shaping movements versus mass movements. The concept that there are certain movements in the gym that are shaping movements and other movements that are mass movements. Complete crap. And yet it's still spouted. Like I said, it's some of the top guys in the industry. I see it all the time. You want to start off with your mass movement. Your compound movements, your mass movement. And then your single joint movements, your shaping movements. Let's get into this a little bit because this is pretty interesting that people still hold on to this. True legends of the sport like Arnold, Frank Zane, amazing since it's completely false. Let's put it this way. If it were actually true, every bodybuilder on the planet would possess the much desired peaked biceps everyone wants, right? They would just do all the concentration curls, right? Think about it. I want to peak biceps. Who doesn't want to peak biceps? Concentration curls, shaping movement. So no to that. You were literally born with the muscle shape that you have. And then all you can really do is affect the size, the development of the muscle. Do you really think that Kevin Levrone didn't want to peak on his bicep like Arnold? Of course he did. He was just never able to develop it. You see all through his career, his double biceps, the biceps were long and flat. Don't you think he would have been like, with my base of knowledge, I know I could do concentration curls and put that peak on. He just didn't think to do that. Or maybe he just didn't want peaked biceps. Of course he did. His bicep shape is long and flat. This is not a cut on Kevin. Just a genetic muscle shape, he had in his biceps. So either he didn't want to peak, like I said before, or he just didn't know how to do it. Neither of those is true. Just never thought to do concentration curls, which we all know just isn't the truth. The truth is he tried like everyone else tries to get that peak on his bicep, but it was never to be. Not because he didn't know the magic shaping exercises he needed to do, but because all we can do is either grow or shrink a muscle. That's all we can do. Not reshape it or make it longer by stretching it. We're doing preacher curls for the lower bicep. I'm not saying not to do these exercises. Don't get me wrong. They're great exercises, but don't expect your very muscle shape to change because you're doing, say, a curl on a slanted bench rather than standing straight up. It just doesn't make any bit of difference to your bicep. Your bicep contracts 100% or it doesn't contract at all. It's either going to grow or it's going to shrink. Here's a good example. Arnold. It's a total genetic crapshoot. Arnold himself, who claimed there were mass movements and shaping movements. He's talked about this all the time. Mass movements and shaping movements. If that were true, why was one of his biceps peaked like a mountain and the other one flat? Have you ever noticed that about him? In every double biceps picture? He's got one peaked ass bicep, one's flat. Just the way he was born. Now, did he forget to do the peaking movements on his left bicep? Just forgot. Don't skip left arm day. No, he did every bicep movement known to mankind. And we both know this. Every bicep, both arms, because his genetic bicep shape differed between the two arms though, all he could ever do is develop both biceps with the genetic shape each bicep had at birth. Hence the reason he legit had two different arms. And then also, why didn't he just do a bunch of mass movements for his legs, right? I mean, he was criticized about his legs through his whole career. I just said, well, you know what? Maybe I forgot to do those mass movements. I've only been doing shaping movements. So my legs are shaped real good, but they're small. No, he did squats. He did leg presses. He did vertical leg presses. He did lunges. He did all of it. It just didn't grow. The discrepancy upper to lower body with him. There are hundreds more examples I can give, but You get the idea. The other part of this myth is the idea that only compound movements or multi-joint movements are going to give you mass. Why? Does your bicep know you're using 2 joints instead of 1? Do your muscles know? Or did they know that they're being taxed and overloaded? That's all they know. Squats, bench press, bend over row, overhead press can build mass, while isolation movements such as pec flies, cable curls, leg extensions are merely shapers and aren't used to build size. That's ridiculous, but rather to shape the muscle. These are legit, universally accepted facts in the industry. They have largely never been challenged, to be honest, but they are just not true. If you've really paid attention to the first part of this video, realize just how wrong this is. We've already talked about the non-existence of shaping a muscle. So that's off the table at this point. It should be anyway. But the idea that isolating the muscle from the rest of the body means there's no way that muscle can grow under that stimulus is absurd. Of course you can grow a muscle with isolation movements. You're still putting the muscle under progressive resistance, right? And if you train intensely enough and get the proper rest and nutrition, that muscle will grow. Do you really think your pecs know if you're doing a bench press versus a dumbbell fly? They just don't. They don't know it at all. All they know is they're being overloaded with overload, and they're going to grow in response to that if you feed them and rest them. You'll break them down either way and grow them back. Recovery in food, just like any other muscle, with any other exercise. Isolation or compound muscle growth is more a function of progressive overload and subsequent recovery than it is about exercise choices. I'm going to say that again. Muscle growth is more a function of progressive overload and subsequent recovery than it is about exercise choices. I've seen people with bad shoulders hurting themselves trying to do heavy bench presses because they're convinced that that's the only way to build a big chest. About really coming up with some ineffective and damaging paradigms. That right there. Well, I have to heavy bench. Heavy bench is the only way to get pecs. With shitty shoulders, it's the best way to get shittier shoulders. That's about it. Or no, I can't do. I know my wrists are bad, but I can't do those curl bar curls because straight bar curls for mass. Really? So if you go from here to here with your curls, your biceps aren't going to notice anymore. Here, growth. Here, nothing. Think about that for a second. Come on, guys. Trying to do barbell bent rows because someone told them that's the only way to get a big back. Nonsense. I take them off the bench press and I put them on modified pec flies and their pecs grow and shoulders are spared. I'll take the person off the bent rows and put them on seated supported rows. And that allows back growth without further destruction of their spine. Locking your mind into these false paradigms that still permeate the industry is more destructive than constructive. So a little education goes a long way. Spot reduction exists. It does not. I hear this all the time. Probably the number one thing I hear. Spot reduction. How can I get rid of the fat that's here? How can I get rid of this tricep fat? How can I do side bends to get rid of the fat? The idea of being able to lose fat from a specific area of the body by moving that part of your body with or without weight, i.e. by performing the side bends, like I mentioned, holding dumbbells to burn the fat off the sides of the waist, is possibly the most universally embraced fallacy and the one about which I am most commonly asked. That's why I wanted to try to squash this crap here and now and once and for all. The fat on your triceps does not belong to your triceps. It belongs to your entire body as a system. It's not part of your tricep, it's part of your body. It needs to be burned off accordingly. So you can't burn that tricep off by doing, say, tricep kickbacks any more than you can burn fat off of your hips by doing side bends, lower back fat by doing deadlifts, right? Can't do that. That's called spot reduction. And if you believe in it, you're looking at body fat in the completely wrong way. The fat on your arms doesn't belong to your arms. The fat on your hips doesn't belong to your hips. It belongs to the entire body as a system. It's a systemic problem. Try to look at your body fat as a layer of stored calories, if you will. These are calories you've taken in over time that your body either could not use for anything and didn't pass into the turlet. And it got stored as this like suit of fatty armor, if you will. You know, it's a systemic problem all over the body, some places more than others. That's all it really is. A stored layer of unused calories all over your body. If you look at it as a bunch of stored calories, you know, that need to be burned off systemically, then it becomes shockingly clear that burning 50 to 60 calories doing a set of side bends isn't going to do much to affect this layer of stored food all over your body at all. But think about this, burning 400 calories with a 60-minute ride on the Stairmaster, now that might start to make a dent in this suit of fatty armor, right? Burning it off systemically. So just because the layer of fat all over your body tends to accumulate mostly on your, say, belly, doesn't mean that burning 40 calories doing sit-ups or leg raises to burn the lower belly fat is going to make it magically go away from those specific places. You need large body movements that burn a ton of calories, you know, using larger muscles with a huge caloric expenditure each session. I tell people exactly this every day in my office, and yet I still see them across the gym doing side bends the next day. Oh, this one. High reps for cut, low reps for size. God, deliver me, Lord. This one kind of ties into the one about spot reduction. It's like it's its bastard stepsister, but it goes deeper. The idea that high reps will somehow make that particular muscle you're working more cut. It's just spot reduction's bastard redhead second cousin twice removed. That's all it is. It's as ridiculous a notion as spot reduction as it completely ignores, right, what getting cut even means at its core, what it means. You're ignoring the whole physiology behind getting ripped. Getting cut is a function of losing large amounts of fat systemically so that the underlying muscle shows more. It's not an isolation thing. So doing high rep pec flies is no more going to give you pec striations than doing side bends will whittle your waist. High rep leg extensions aren't going to carve in that extra leg detail you desire. It's just going to build your quads like any other quad movement or sustain that quad mass in a calorie deficit, such as a contest diet. The high reps themselves aren't going to be what's responsible for the cuts. The diet and systemic work will be, as that's what will burn the fat and make the muscles appear more cut. This is important. I have seen over the years how people have confused correlation with causation. You follow? So you do all these things and the end result is what it is, the physique that you have. So you go back and you assign meaning to some of the things that you've done. And you've come up with this paradigm, right or wrong, that it was the higher reps that caused the cuts. Meanwhile, you were doing an hour of cardio every morning and you were in a calorie deficit. But no, it must be the high reps. So you end up assigning different meaning to different things that you do. And if no one's there to challenge you on it and there's no scientific basis not to, then you just go on believing it. But I'm here to tell you, it's not true. So you're doing all of these things at the same time: cardio, high rep weight training, you know, stringent diet. It's easy to lose sight of what's causing what and to confuse the fact that you're seeing more and more cuts in your legs each week. And then you end up attributing that to the high rep training instead of what actually made it happen, you know, which is the diet and the systemic calorie burning. And along with, you know, along the same lines, building mass doesn't preclude all other rep schemes. This is important as well. Building mass does not preclude all other rep schemes other than low reps. Not by a long shot. So I've seen people get huge doing high reps, myself included. And I've seen people get shredded using low reps. So there's kind of a counterintuitiveness there going on there. So I think it's important to note that you can get cut really shredded doing low rep. Dorian did it. Mike Menser did it. Conversely, you can do high reps and get fat. You know, so it's not the rep scheme that's doing things. It's the calories in, calories out. nutrient partitioning, things that are much more specific to what's going on. The critical component isn't the rep range. It's the diet and recovery factors that decide muscle growth or atrophy, fat gain or loss. If you're in a consistent calorie deficit, eating less than you burn, you can do low reps and heavy weight every day, all day, and lose weight. Conversely, if you're in a consistent calorie surplus, eating more than you burn, you can do high reps and grow. There are two caveats, however. Going too low with your reps, singles or 2 to 3 reps, invites injury. It's really only relegated to strength gains over hypertrophy. And going too high with your reps, 50 plus reps per set, as an example, it's an extreme example, but still, precludes being able to use a weight that's heavy enough, a relative term I know, to cause any hypertrophy. Here's a couple of excellent examples. If you know your bodybuilding history, you know who Serge Nubret was. No one will argue that he had a huge amount of muscle for his day and that he trained routinely using 20 to 30 reps. This we all knew about Serge. You see him doing 20-pound dumbbell, one-arm dumbbell laterals for like a 10-minute set. He was huge. Now, you know, you can always go back to the argument of genetics. Well, yeah, great genetics. Well, they all have great genetics, but there are certain things that are universal facts, and this is them. So listen or don't listen, it's up to you. He had a huge amount of muscle for his day, and he trained routinely using 20 to 30 reps. This is well documented. Conversely, you have guys like Mike Mentzer, we mentioned him earlier, who popularized his heavy duty type training, which consisted of low reps all out and lower sets in volume. Two totally different training styles with basically the same end result. Both had amazing, well-muscled physiques, and I'm not confusing correlation with causation here. I'm simply saying that thousands of top bodybuilders built and maintained their physiques with a multitude of varying rep schemes. The bottom line for muscle growth versus cuts is your diet. The ultimate determinant of whether you gain muscle, gain fat, lose muscle, lose fat is where your calories are coming in versus what's going out. And then nutrient partitioning, which I hope anyone watching this knows what that is. Once you know that, you can pick a training style that you just prefer. It's a matter of preference at that point. And that feels right for you without thinking you have to lock yourself into sub 10 reps workouts if you want to grow, and innumerable reps in 5-minute long sets if you want to get cut. The difference between off-season and pre-contest for a lot of these guys and girls doesn't hinge on a shift in training style, rather a shift in eating style and the addition of some systemic calorie burning activities such as cardio. Most of them train exactly the same way off-season and pre-show, myself included, right up to the show. Little known fact, but true. My training never changed off-season to pre-contest, just the diet surrounding that training changed. I liked the way a 4-day split felt with any reps between 8 and 20. And I'm not going to change. Why am I going to change that? That's what felt good. That's what worked. And so I just tailored my nutrition around that based on what I wanted my body to do. And with that, we wrap up this segment. Don't believe the hype. Keep an open mind. Educate yourself and like and subscribe to this video if you liked the content. Over and out.